Hello class, I hope you're doing well. Mr. Greg here, and I apologize for the delay in the video. I was trying to find a video recording program that I liked, and I think I've settled on one here, and so I'm producing the next video. What I want to do in this video is just go over your homework. A lot of you struggled with the homework, and I understand it was a hard assignment. And so I want to go over how I did it, and that way maybe you'll understand. And then in another video, there will be lesson 8, which will build on the homework that you had. So what I want to do is just kind of review where we were before. If you remember correctly, we hooked up the joystick to the Arduino like this using the pins, and then when we got a value from the joystick, we read it to the serial monitor. And I want to show you that. Here's our code. So our code was basically, we established the X, Y, and S pins, this S pin being the switch, and then once we got a value from those, we put them in a bucket that we called X value, Y value, and S value, and we went back and created a delay. Now make sure you are putting your comments in here. This will help you. I notice some of you have not been doing that. I'm going to start deducting points for that. So make sure you put your comments in there. The next thing is we opened up the serial monitor. We set up our pin modes as inputs because we are reading from them. And then we went to the void loop and we did an analog read of each of the pins, and we put them in our bucket, X value, Y value, and switch value. We put a delay in there so we would be able to read it, and then we set up our serial prints here. As you can see, we put a string comment in here, left space, put the value in, and then did it straight across, and then at the end we went to a new line. And so the way that looks, see if I can do this, is like this. So as I moved the joystick left and right, you could see a change in value. Let's see if I can do it this way. So as you can see, as I move it left, got a value of 0, and right, value of 1023. So up gave us a value of 0, and down, it's like a airplane throttle. Down increases the value. And then our switch, when you press the button, we actually turned off the switch. We sent it low. And then it's normally 1, which we had set in our program. And so your assignment was to connect the LEDs up and then use the joystick to control the brightness of the LEDs by putting those values in there. And a lot of you struggled with that, and so I want to go over what we need to do for that. Turn that off, and maybe from there you can figure out what you did wrong and make the corrections for that, because I need you to do that, because from there we're going to build on in lesson 8. So the first thing we needed to do was attach some LEDs. So let's just go ahead and set up our circuit right now for that. In fact, I'm just going to show the circuit here. I'm going to zoom in a little bit for you. So the assignment was to create an LED that would dim on the X value, an LED that would dim on the Y value, and then a switch LED. So I'm going to start with my switch LED, and I'm going to use green for that. Now, since I'm setting up 3 LEDs and I want to keep it simple for you, I'm going to go ahead and set up a ground rail. And so I'm going to put the shorter leg of my LED in the ground rail that I'm going to set up. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and do that now. Hope you can see this, but I'm putting a black wire. It doesn't really matter, but black's typically used for ground. I don't know if you can see that or not. In the ground slot, and then I'm connecting it to the negative row of my breadboard. You have a negative and a positive here. I hope you can see that. And so that means that anything plugged in this lower negatively identified rail will be ground. Alright, so if we have an LED, what does that mean? We need to have a resistor, right? Because if we don't put the resistor in there to control the current, then the LED will continually draw current until it blows itself up. So I'm going to put a resistor in there. I'm actually using a 220 volt resistor. You could use a 330 if you like. I just noticed that the 220 volt helped me see the LED dim a little bit better. So I did that, and then of course we need to hook that back to our pin. This is a either high or low, on or off pin. So that is a digital on or off pin, and so I think I'm going to hook that to pin number 11. You can hook it to any of the digital pins. I noticed that a few of you actually hooked your LEDs to the analog pins, but how soon we forget the LEDs are a digital reading device, high or low, and so they have to be hooked to the digital pins. So the next thing I'm going to do is connect my Y value LED, and again I'm going to put it in the short end in the negative rail and the long end in a column here. Now these are not connected because of this line here, as we learned in I think the second lesson. So I can hook it here. Of course I need a resistor. You should know how to do this really. This is why I had you do it over and over and over again so that it would be easy for you to do. Have a resistor there, and then I need an input to my resistor. You know what, I'm going to move my resistor this way. And I'm going to hook my yellow LED into pin number 10 and hook it here. And then finally for my X reading, I'm going to use the red LED. And I'm not going to hook it into the ground because I want it to be over here for visual sake for you. Here. So you can see that. Still need a resistor. I forgot which one. Alright, I put the long one up top. So that's my input. I'm going to put my resistor in the same column, and then over here in a different column. Doesn't matter that much. And then I'm going to use a longer wire and plug that into pin number 9 and run that in to my LED. And then, are we done? No. We need to connect it to ground. So I'm going to take the green wire because I don't have any black wires available. Hook it to the output of the LED and run that to my ground rail. So this is how you, I'm going to move this down so you can see better. So this is how your circuit should be set up. Hope you can see that. If yours is not set up like that, or if you would like to check it, then pause the video now and just make sure it is there. Alright, so now to the code. So I have 3 LEDs, so I'll need to set up 3 variables for them. So I'm going to set up an int. I'm going to call my first one red LED, and I put that in pin number 9. Alright, so I'm not going to go through and put codes in because I don't want this video to be super long, but I need you to do that. Alright, int. I'll do my yellow LED. I think I did that to 10. I did. Oops. That is not good. 10. And then I have a green LED. That in 11. Alright. I like that. So now we've got 3 more pins set up. What do we need to do? Set up our pin modes. So pin mode red LED, and that is an output because we're reading to it. Right? Pin mode yellow LED output, all capital, likes it. And pin mode green LED, and it is also an output. Really? Alright, I have those set up as outputs, so that looks pretty good. So my void loop, so we're reading from the joystick and we're putting that information in a bucket that we're calling X valve or Y valve or the switch valve. And so now we've got to write that to our LEDs. And so you know how to do this. We've done this in our previous lessons, but we're going to go over it again. So we're getting an analog read, so we need to do an analog write. Analog write. What are we writing to? The red LED. And what are we reading it? My red LED is on my X value, is on the X axis. And so I want to read it X val. I hope you can see that. Makes sense. One thing I want to make sure you did is that you hooked the LEDs that we're going to write different voltages to the digital ones with the squiggly line. Remember, the squiggly line digital outputs will accept an analog input. And some of you, I noticed when you chose your pins, you did not do that, and that might have been why you were having issues seeing it dim. There's a few others, and I'll go over that. Alright, so analog, write, yellow, LED is my Y valve. Now, my switch valve, we're just turning it on and off. So we don't really need to do an analog right, because we're not going to show any individual voltages. It's just high or low. So I'm going to do a digital right, green LED, and that's going to be the S value. And I'm going to move my delay, highlight, move it down to here, put it after that. That looks good. That looks good. Got all our print values from the previous lesson, so the only thing left to do is download this, upload it to the Arduino. And let's get that where you can see it. Oh, look at there. I have values. I don't know how well you can tell because they're getting washed out. But if let's do this. Let's turn on the serial monitor. Get that where you can see it. Oops. Did that wrong. Bear with me. Getting faster. Alright, so now we should be able to see the values. And this. So as I move my joystick, my values change like before. Sure, you can see this. Let me see. I can make this smaller. Nope. Yes. Alright. I'm going to do this. Alright, so as you can see, as my X value gets smaller, my LED eventually turns off when I go to 0 on my X-axis, which is my red LED. Now, I don't know if you can barely see that dim, and I'll explain it. It's pretty good. Why you probably wrote your code correctly as I just did, but you couldn't hardly see it dim. I can make mine dim. See it dim in there? And then click the button, turn the green LED off, undo it on. Alright. So I hope you were able to do this. If your code is wrong, I want you to go back and fix it so that you get here, because in lesson number 8, we're going to build off of this. And so I'll be sending this out shortly. You can go over it, create the code, and then I'll work on lesson number 8.